Chapter 1: The World of Cultivation 1. Fengji stumbled as she walked, and the pain in her body made her frown from time to time. This body was really damaged. I don't know if such a body can survive to retrieve the space-time energy stone that fell into this time and space. Time and space energy stones will interfere with time and space. If they are attached to a living body, they will be reborn repeatedly until the energy is exhausted. If gathered in large numbers, they will even cause large areas of time and space to travel, and even parallel time and space fusion will occur. This thing has always been placed in the Interstellar Alliance Museum, but it was stolen by interstellar pirates during a traveling exhibition. Later, it was unable to be preserved and broke into pieces, and fell to a blue planet. The Interstellar Alliance can only turn to the Alliance's patron saint, the A family, where Fengji belongs. After all, it was the A family that brought this thing out of the abyss of the universe. When Fengji first arrived on this planet, she landed using the space-time energy stone as coordinates. She had to find a biological nutrition cabin for her spiritual body as soon as possible, but there was only one fresh corpse nearby. To put it bluntly, she had no choice. The voice of the family's scientific researchers was constantly coming from the communication device in her mental body, reminding her of things to pay attention to. Sir Admiral, the next time node will be after 50 revolutions of the planet. I hope you will be ready to go to the next time in space. This body is no longer good. If I continue like this, I may have to violate the Life Protection Act. The wind was so painful that her vision was blurred. This body should be that of a cub, but it was not yet known what happened to it. The internal organs were so damaged that she didn't even dare to look through her memories for fear of causing further damage. Fengji spread his mental power around, looking for a way to save himself, and found a group of life forms of the same species in front of him. Fengji quickly calculated the possibility of using mental power to invade and kill one of them, and then transfer her spiritual body there. But before she could take action, the group of life forms discovered her first, and the cub's body immediately began to recognize their language. Ghost! Ghost! Isn't this a girl from the Zhang family? Yesterday, she was obviously wrapped in a mat and placed in the mountain temple. Why? Oh my God. Go and invite the immortal quickly? Yes, yes. Immortals and others must have a way. Immortal? Because of Fengji's appearance, the scene quickly became chaotic. They all invariably tried to stay away from Fengji. Fengji frowned. It became more difficult to violate the life protection law. Is this the person you call dead? Fengji's vision was blurred, and he could roughly see a person standing in front of him. There was another person following him from a distance who was saying tremblingly, "Returning to the immortal, it's her. The girl in this family was obviously dead yesterday, but I wiped her body. It was really cold. There is no one in the Zhang family. We originally planned to put her in the mountain temple and bury her on a certain day. Who would have thought?" Before the man could finish speaking, the man in front of him grabbed Fengji's wrist and touched it to make sure it wasn't a corpse-picking thing. Then he scolded. "Nonsense. This girl is obviously still alive, but she suffered extremely serious internal injuries. She probably faked her death yesterday, but she won't live long at her condition." After the man finished speaking, he lowered his head and glanced at Fengji. After all, he was moved by compassion, and then said again, "Meeting me can be regarded as your good fortune. Forget it, I will treat it as a good relationship. If you can pass the spiritual root test later, it will not be too late to thank me." Fengji wasn't sure what the situation was, but he had an intuition that the person in front of him would save him. He opened his mouth to say something, but as soon as he opened his mouth, a large mouthful of black blood came out. The man's expression changed, and he quickly took out a small porcelain bottle from his arms, poured out a pill, and stuffed it into Fengji's mouth without allowing Fengji to resist. The strange thing is that the pill is obviously not small, but it melts in the mouth. After a while, Fengji felt a warm current flowing through his body. The pain in his body was quickly soothed. Gradually, there was no pain at all, and his vitality was quickly restored. Thank you. Fengji opened his mouth, but didn't know what else to say. Now that her vitality had been restored, she began to look through the body's memories. Now that the little girl is well, let's go get her spiritual roots tested with me. Fengji stood still and followed obediently, only to realize that the group of people just now were surrounding the ancestral hall in this body's memory. There were also many people standing inside, but most of them were young children, while those surrounding them outside were all adults. Master Feng, what's going on? As soon as he entered, an elegantly dressed woman came up to him and looked at Fengji several times. It's okay. This girl shouldn't die. Now that she's here, let's test her spiritual roots as well. Yes. Fengji was still in a daze until he got on their spiritual boat and flew to what they called the Xuanyuan Sect. Although she was ready to accept new things when she arrived on this lower civilization-protected planet excluded from interstellar civilization, the cultivation of this world was still far beyond her knowledge. She could confirm that there was no so-called cultivation in the 8 major alliances and empires. Fengji, you are really blessed now. Not only do you have spiritual roots, you also have mutated thunder spirit roots. If nothing else happens, you'll become an inner disciple after you enter. You must know that Xuanyuan Sect has not received a disciple with mutated thunder spirit roots for nearly 1,000 years. The more Master Feng talked, the more excited he became. He did not expect that Mao Yadu, whom he saved with a moment of kindness, would actually have such great fortune and good karma. What a blessing indeed. He didn't even care when the other party called himself Fengji when registering his name instead of Zhang, as in the village name. Today's Fengji is destined to take root in the world of cultivation. It doesn't matter what his last name is in the mortal world. He has seen many people who changed their names after entering the world of cultivation, or whose names were changed by their masters. After all, many people's names in the mortal world are really difficult to be elegant. You can't call yourself Li Guden, Zhang Tsuehua, or Wang Taizhu in the world of cultivation in the future. Fengji lay beside the spirit boat and looked at the flowing clouds under her feet. She was very curious about what the power source of this so-called spirit boat was, but it would be wrong to say more. Before she could figure out the world, she could only wait and see what happened. Because he was originally a 5-year-old child and his parents died young, he was raised by hundreds of families and he knew very little about his surroundings. But she did know the cause of the original owner's death. 2 days ago, the girl next door, Liao Yanran, borrowed a relic left by the original owner's mother, a bracelet of unknown material. She said she was wearing it for fun, but she didn't expect that she couldn't take it off after putting it on. The original owner was anxious and tried many methods, but could not get Liao Yanran to take off the bracelet. On the contrary, yesterday, Liao Yanran was accepted as a disciple by a passing immortal who called himself Xuanyuan Sect. He watched helplessly as Liao Yanran took the bracelet away. The original owner was unwilling and chased Liao Yanran, who was sitting with the immortal on the sword. After running for a few steps, his internal organs were shattered by an inexplicable force. He died just like that. In fact, she, a foreigner, took advantage of her. Chapter 2, Cultivation World 2. Fengji thought about the girl named Liao Yanran back and forth, and always felt that something was wrong with her. Liao Yanran had known the original owner since childhood, and had seen the original owner's bracelet many times. However, she had never been interested in the bracelet because of its unattractive appearance. But 2 days ago, she suddenly wanted to wear it. After putting it on, she cut her hand and smeared blood on the bracelet, and then the bracelet could not be taken off. What is the connection between bracelets and blood? Why did Liao Yanran have to wear a bracelet, and why did she take the initiative to cut her hand? Could it be that she knows the secret of this bracelet? A secret that even the original owner of the bracelet doesn't know. Fengji realized that since the time and space energy stone has the ability to regenerate living beings, then the time and space energy stone must be on the body of Liao Yanran in this time and space. This person already knew the secret of the bracelets, so he did this. As for the death of the original body, maybe it was intentional by the reborn Liao Yanran. Now that she knows who the time and space energy stone is, Fengji has a goal. As long as Liao Yan regrets her rebirth and her soul conflicts with the time and space energy stone, she can peel off the time and space energy stone and get it back. The spirit boat flew for a day and a night and finally passed through the barrier and arrived at the realm of cultivation. Feng Jinren took the 5 new disciples he had collected from various towns and set foot on the Xuanyuan Sect's teleportation array. After a while, the world was spinning, and they arrived at the mountain gate of Xuanyuan Sect and met up with the real person who was going to other places to recruit disciples. Fengji looked at the changed scene around him and was secretly shocked. He didn't expect that this world could break through the limitations of time and space and achieve the effect of instant transfer without the help of any machine. Is such a civilization really a so-called low-level civilization? This is the ladder to climb the clouds. It is the only way for every new disciple to pass. Whether you can truly get started next depends on you. After Master Feng finished speaking, he glanced at Fengji. Although there were not many children with spiritual roots this time, almost all of them were real good ones, especially the girl in front of him, who was the best. This climbing ladder was built by the founder of the mountain. There is a formation hidden inside, which tests the character of the person who climbs the ladder. According to the sect rules, every new disciple must take it. It's just that Fengji is too young, and he doesn't know which level he will be able to reach on the ladder later. Master Feng thought about it for a while, but after all, he couldn't resist the desire to form a good relationship in his heart, so he sent a message to the senior brother in charge of disciple registration. Fengji raised his head and looked at the almost endless ladder. He gestured to his little arms and legs and frowned slightly. He was afraid that if he finished climbing the ladder, he would suffer from internal injuries. Although he thought so, he followed the other children and climbed up the ladder. Little did he know that the real elders in each peak of the Xuanyuan Sect who were qualified to accept disciples were all ready to take action. When the leader learned that there was a child with a mutated thunder spirit root, his hands couldn't help but tremble, and he was naturally excited. However, after thinking about it, he sent a secret message to Xuanyuan Peak. After all, this child's spiritual root was exactly the same as that one. That person has never accepted a disciple for so many years. Maybe this boy is his master and apprentice by fate. If he can really pass on that mantle, their Xuanyuan Sect will definitely reach a higher level. Fengji moved his little arms and legs, climbing up layer by layer, and slowly discovered that the children around him seemed to have encountered some problem, either crying, laughing, standing still, or retreating in fear, as if they were hallucinating. But she looked left and right, but she never found anything strange about the stone steps. Fengji looked at the sky and finally ignored the children around him and continued to climb slowly. When he was tired, he sat down and took a rest. When he felt that his legs were a little stronger, he continued to climb. Fengji didn't know that his actions were completely seen by the big guys from all the peaks who came over. When Fengji sat down to rest, they thought that Fengji, like several other children, had encountered the illusion of climbing the ladder, and they all guessed what the temptation or fear in Fengji's heart was. But when he saw Fengji sitting there, massaging his legs and relaxing his muscles, his face was stunned. What kind of fantasy requires relaxing his muscles? But after a while, Fengji continued to climb up. After climbing for a while, he sat down and beat his legs. After going back and forth several times, everyone finally discovered the clue. Fengji did not encounter any illusion at all. He was just resting when he sat down before. All the big bosses showed joy. They had no desires, no demands, and no fear. They were like God's help on the journey of cultivation. It was extremely rare. Even the founders back then still had their own selfish desires. After the joy, they began to worry again. The better the seedlings, the more popular they were. So everyone began to weigh their own advantages in recruiting disciples compared with those around them. When he walked to the back, the mountains were filled with clouds and mist. When Fengji turned around, he could hardly see the many children who came up with him before. He could only see one or two small black dumplings moving slowly. When Fengji stepped onto a step with a different pattern than before, Yunhua, who was in seclusion in Xuanyuan Peak, suddenly opened his eyes. If Fengji saw these eyes, he would definitely like them because there were faint stars in these eyes, which looked like vast nebulae. When Fengji finally climbed the last step, almost all the real people who could still speak in the sect had dispersed, leaving only the peak masters and elders of each peak. Because they all know that climbing the ladder tests not only your character, but also your talent. The higher you climb, the better your talent. According to legend, those who can complete the climb up the ladder will definitely attain enlightenment. However, after so many years of establishment of the sect, there are only two people who have completed the climb up the ladder. One is the leader, and the other is Emperor Yunhua, who proves the legend with facts and has attained enlightenment. So now the appearance of this third person, although he is still a young child, is not something that ordinary people can imagine. He's simply left out of sight and out of mind, and left in a hurry. And do those who stay really want to fight? In fact, no one knew for sure. I just saw that the leader and the legendary one never showed up, so I wanted to try my luck. But as soon as the child climbed up the last step, a cold wind mixed with wind and snow blew over. When the wind fell, he saw a figure in white brocade standing in front of the child. Emperor Yunhua, your blessings are immeasurable. Just before everyone could see who it was, the leader hurriedly appeared, stepped forward, and bowed. Everyone was shocked. They suppressed their excitement and bowed to the leader. I'll take her. Chapter 3, Cultivation World 3. After Yunhua said that, he was about to take Fengji away, but found that the other party was still sitting motionless on the ground leaning against the stone pillar, showing no intention of following him. What? You don't want to? Yunhua's eyes moved slightly. It was rare for him to meet such a seedling, so he thought of accepting a disciple, but he didn't expect that the other party was unwilling to follow him. Unexpectedly, Yunhua finished speaking. Fengji just opened his eyelids and glanced at Yunhua. He took a deep breath and remained still there. Everything was silent for a moment, and no one dared to say a word. They never thought that someone would reject Emperor Yunhua. I'm a good boy. I think back then they fought hard in the intersect competition, but they couldn't even let Emperor Yunhua look at me. Now Emperor Yunhua is interested in accepting a disciple, and he is still rejected? Yunhua didn't speak, and just stood still, as if waiting for an explanation from the little girl. After a while, it seemed like a long time, when the leader couldn't help but say a few good words for Fengji. Fengji finally spoke. I said, brother, if you only want me to go with you, can you give me a hand? I really can't walk anymore. For a moment, the air seemed to be motionless. Everyone was stunned by the girl's words of brother and could not recover for a long time. In the end, Fengji followed her brother, but not in a normal posture. Instead, Yunhua cast a small spell and was hanging behind her. Fortunately, except for a slight dizziness, there were no other adverse reactions. Yunhua, who brought Fengji back to Xuanyuan Peak, didn't know where to place Fengji for a while. Although there were majestic palaces here, each room had a special purpose. Due to the special geographical location of Xuanyuan Peak, ordinary materials could not build a house here. Even this palace was actually a magical artifact specially crafted by Yunhua. You can live with me for the time being. Yunhua thought about putting an extra futon in his room so that this new disciple could meditate with him, completely forgetting that ordinary people who have not yet introduced qi into their bodies have anything to do with sleeping. Okay. Fengji responded casually, but his eyes were looking around. When Yunhua turned around, he suddenly caught a strange look in Fengji's eyes, which didn't look like human eyes at all. Yunhua's heart tightened, and he looked again. The strange color had disappeared without a trace, and there was still a 5-year-old girl in front of him. He hadn't looked carefully before, but now when he looked again, Yunhua found that this apprentice was full of problems. It was originally the appearance of a wealthy and prosperous life, but now it was cut off at the waist and turned into the appearance of an untimely death. When looking at the luck, there was no trace of it. This was obviously a dead person. But despite all this, the girls stood before him alive. Yuanhua instantly thought of seizing the body, and thinking of Fengji's performance on the ladder before, he already speculated in his heart that there was some hidden old monster in front of him, otherwise why he almost hid it from himself. If he hadn't just discovered the strange color in her eyes, and he had mastered the art of observing luck, he would not have been able to discover these problems. I just don't know what this guy's plan is for sneaking into the Xuanyuan Sect. The term "to alert the enemy" has always been used to worry only when the opponent is not as strong as the opponent. Yunhua asked himself that no one in the current world of cultivation could fight alone with him, so Yunhua took action without hesitation. "Who are you? What do you mean by joining our Xuanyuan Sect?" Until Fengji's life gate was controlled by Yunhua, Fengji couldn't believe that she was exposed like this. In order to reduce energy consumption, the liaison device in her mental body had already entered a dormant state. At this time, there was not even a person who could give her a few opinions on the current situation as a dog-headed strategist. It was not that Fengji had never thought of directly detaching the spiritual body from the girl's body, but after quickly searching there were no other fresh corpses nearby, she couldn't take the risk. And since the person in front of her can discover her now, even if she enters another body, she will be discovered sooner or later, so it is better to shake hands with the person in front of her and make peace. "My name is Fengji. This body's original surname is Zhang. It is dead, but I did not kill it. I can only tell you that I have no malicious intent." Fengji saw that Yunhua in front of him did not have murderous intention yet, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Although the other party should not be able to kill her spiritual body, without a new body to supply the nutrition cabin, she would soon enter a dormant state. "Then why did you mix into the Xuanyuan Sect?" Yuanhua was quite cooperative when he saw Fengji, and it was quite strange because just now he scanned it with his spiritual consciousness and found that the other party's physical and spiritual bodies were in perfect harmony, and it was impossible to tell that he was trying to seize the body. "I didn't sneak in, but your people brought me back." Fengji was telling the truth. He was indeed brought back by Fang Jinren on his own initiative. "Then why did you choose this girl's body?" Yunhua believed that he would not be fooled by the other party's few words. "Because she's dead." Fengji's tone of voice made Yunhua not know what to say for a moment. He was not a talkative person. However, Fengji saw that Yunhua had no ill intentions at the moment, so he simply opened the window and spoke frankly. If the person in front of him was willing to help her, he would be considered a helper. Even if he was not willing, he hoped that the other person would not interfere with him in the future. "I came to your world to find something." "This world? You mean you are not from this world?" Yunhua's heart moved, and he said he attained the Tao and ascended to heaven. But it was not until he attained the Tao that everyone realized that there was no light of guidance at all, and the so-called 3,000 worlds probably did not exist. Even though he now had the ability to step through the void, he could not use it because he did not know where the other world was and was aimless. Just when he thought the world was just like this, a person suddenly appeared and told him that he was not from this world. "It's true to say that the place I came from is completely different from yours, and I'm here to find something we lost." Because of some of the things he had come into contact with before, and Yunhua's ability to see through him easily, Fengji was temporarily unable to define whether their civilization was higher or lower than the others. "How do I know whether what you say is the truth or a lie?" "Since you have seen that I am not her, you should naturally believe what I say." Fengji tried to free his life gate from the shackles of Yunhua, and he was relieved when he saw that the other party actually let go. Yunhua was silent. It was indeed what Fengji said. In fact, he had believed what she said. "What is your world like?" Fengji did not expect that Yunhua would ask such a question. She originally thought that the other party would ask her what she was looking for and how she should answer. She could not expose the time and space energy stone to avoid attracting more prying eyes, but she did not expect that Yunhua would ask her, "What is your world like?" Chapter 4 Cultivation World 4. Fengji thought for a while and said with a smile, "Our world is beautiful, powerful, and dangerous. The vast universe has given birth to many civilizations. It is magnificent and powerful, but it is full of dangers. But sometimes this danger is also an opportunity. For example, Fengji's family, A. The A family comes from the cosmic abyss. No one in the Alliance has ever been there except for the members of the A family. A first appeared when the 8 major alliances and the major empires encountered the insect tide. The insect tide also came from the cosmic abyss. Only the powerful A family defeated the insect tide and protected the Alliance and the Empire. It is the well-deserved patron saint of the Alliance and the Empire. Although there are many conspiracy theories that the insect tide is released by the A family, no one dares to say this in front of any member of the A family, because only the A family can suppress the insect tide that appears from time to time, but for some reason it has never been eliminated. Only the A family knows that it is not that they do not eliminate the Zerg, but for the ecological balance of the abyss of the universe, where many lives still live. Yunhua looked down at the smile on the face of the child in front of him and was stunned. At this moment, he clearly realized that this child did have a different and mature soul in his body, because the pride, tolerance, wisdom, and pride in the eyes are not what a child has at all. You'll leave when you find something? Yes. What Fengji didn't say was that no matter whether she got the space-time energy stone or not, she would leave this time and space in 50 years, because this is the maximum load that the spiritual body can bear in one time and space. But no matter what, she'll get back the energy stone within 50 years. Family A cannot afford to fail. Okay, but you can't hurt innocent people at will. Now that I have accepted you as my disciple, you will still be my disciple before you leave. As long as you are willing, I will still try my best to teach you." "Thank you." What Yunhua said touched Fengji slightly. She didn't expect the person in front of her to be so open-minded. Although she didn't know whether what the other party said was true or false, she didn't care. After all, the other party couldn't hurt her. What Fengji didn't know was that Yunhua made a bold decision in his heart after just a few words. If possible, when Fengji left, he wanted to follow her to have a look at her world, and it would not be in vain for his endless life after attaining enlightenment. In this way, Fengji's life in the world of cultivation officially kicked off. A Taoist emperor who ignored the secular world and an interstellar general who is not from Earth lived together in such a stumbling way. 2 days later. I've been eating fruit for 2 days in a row. My body is protesting. I need nutrition. Fengji lay on the ground with a faceless face, while Yunhua beside him still seemed to be meditating with his eyes closed without any awareness. Fengji exhaled a breath of turbid air. This dead body now relies entirely on her mental power to maintain its operation, and it also serves as her own nutritional cabin, providing energy for her mental body. The two are interdependent. But who can tell her how she can live with her body if she eats fruits that contain a lot of water and not much sugar every day? Live. Brother, say something. Are you deliberately starving me to death? No wonder Fengji would speculate so maliciously on Yunhua. If she hadn't known that mortals would starve to death if they didn't eat when she retrieved the body's memory, she wouldn't have known that mortals could be so fragile. No wonder she still felt so uncomfortable in her stomach even after eating a few fruits, and her body had almost no nutritional supply. When he heard the word brother, Yunhua finally opened his eyes and glanced at Fengji, but he closed them after just one glance. In fact, Yunhua also has his own little arrogance in his heart. In fact, he clearly said that he would treat the other party as his apprentice before he left, but the other party kept shouting, "Brother! Brother!" Karen. Whoever wants to be a brother should at least call him Master to listen. I asked you why you closed your eyes again. Fengji saw that the other party finally opened his eyes, but in that moment he closed them again, and he suddenly became anxious. He quickly got up from the ground, rolled over, and stretched out his hand to pull Yunhua's face, as if he wanted to pull Yunhua's eyelids open with his own hands. Feeling Feng Zhi's movement, Yunhua also jumped. He quickly reached out to block Feng Zhi's movement, opened his eyes, and asked in a deep voice, "What are you up to?" "I also want to ask you what you want. 2 days. 2 whole days. You just gave me 2 palm-sized fruits. Are you really going to starve me to death before I get my things back?" Yunhua frowned slightly. Of course, he knew what Feng Zhi had eaten in the past 2 days. After all, he gave her the biling fruit himself. "It will be good for you to eat that." "Benefit? Is it the benefit of starving me to death?" Feng Zhi felt that after eating those 2 fruits, he really didn't feel any benefit except being hungry. If it would be a benefit to feel a little warm in your stomach when you first eat it, treat it as if she didn't say anything. Your body has excellent bones. Biling fruit has the effect of purifying the spirit body. If you insist on eating it for a month, you will get twice the result with half the effort in your cultivation. What Yunhua didn't say is that this green ridge fruit is hard to find because the green ridge where it grows is full of man-eating ferocious beasts. This tree blooms for hundreds of years, bears fruit for hundreds of years, and matures for hundreds of years. When it is ripe, if it is not picked and preserved with a spiritual weapon, it will dissipate between heaven and earth in less than a day. Even if some people pick the fruit, it is in vain because there is no spiritual weapon that can be preserved. After all, the biling fruit is only effective for spiritual bodies that have not yet cultivated, and they can only eat one at a time. 1 month. Feng Zhi raised his eyebrows and waved his little hand. "No, I'll starve to death if I do this for 2 more days. Although you are now a mortal body and cannot live without food, the biling fruit has made up for this. Although you may feel hungry now, you will never starve to death. Just get used to it. After you practice living without food, you will not be hungry even if you don't eat." As Yunhua spoke, he began to recall what it felt like to be hungry, but he had been living without food for a long time and couldn't remember it at all. It was quite strange to see Feng Zhi shouting that he was hungry. "That's you, don't forget. This body is dead, and now it all depends on me to run. I need to eat to replenish energy, otherwise I will really starve to death." Feng Zhi's heart was filled with tears. She didn't want to be the first general in her family's history to choose to hibernate because of hunger. It would be such a shame. "I'm sorry, it was my negligence." Yunhua did not expect such a situation at all. Considering that Feng Zhi was about to starve to death, he could only take Feng Zhi to the outer disciple canteen to eat. Therefore, since the outer gate canteen was built, it has welcomed the most distinguished diners. Let alone the past 500 years. It is estimated that there will be no such customers in the next 500 years. Chapter 5, Cultivation World 5. Fortunately, this time Yunhua still had a conscience and did not hang Feng Zhi in the air like he did before. Instead, he held Feng Zhi's hand, stood in the air, and floated to the outer door with Feng Zhi. "Stop, who is coming? Where are your waist badges?" What blocked them was the gatekeeper's shirho at the entrance of the cafeteria. In order to prevent outsiders from entering and poisoning the disciples, each sect's cafeteria will have a shirho who can identify the waist badges. Yunhua has been running rampant in the world of cultivation for so many years since he attained Taoism, but he never thought that one day he would be stopped by the little gatekeeper shirho. The moment he was stopped, Feng Zhi on the side immediately gave him a suspicious and contemptuous look. Yunhua was heartbroken, but he still said patiently, "My name is Yunhua." According to Yunhua's idea, if he announced his name as Emperor Yunhua, Shirho would definitely get out of the way respectfully, but he didn't expect Shirho to be so disrespectful, so he rolled his eyes and said in a very humane manner, "I don't care what Hua you are, if you don't have a waist card, you can't get in." It's not time to eat, and there are no disciples passing by nearby. Yunhua doesn't want to disturb the leader and get a badge just to have a meal, so after thinking about it, he simply takes Feng Zhi out and plans to go down the mountain to eat. "Your stuff is really interesting." When leaving, Feng Zhi looked back at Shirho again. This thing should be similar to their electronic identification, but it looks like a stone sculpture. I don't know why it can speak human words and make so many movements and expressions. The civilization of this world is really novel and interesting. If it's convenient, you can also tell me about your world. Yunhua lowered his head and glanced at Fengji beside him, thinking that the other person's core came from another unknown world. This feeling is very strange. We can't finish it in just a few words, but I can tell you that you live on one planet, and there are countless planets beyond this. Planet? Are you from another planet? That's right. What Feng